Business Hub on Smooth 98.1 in association Lotus Bank. Lotus Bank, partner, progress, prosper.
All right. Yes, it is 17 minutes gone past 5. And yes, you're tuning into Smooth 98.1. And this is Business Hub, where we get to discuss everything business related. And well, you just get to know what exactly you need to be doing when it comes to making money or managing your finances. And today on Business Hub, we'll be talking about navigating love and finances. I know it's still the month of February, right? So some people will be like, heh, but we finished Valentine. But yes, indeed we have. But we still also have, love keeps giving and it's every day. Need to keep showing love. However, with that in mind, we also need to know how to manage our finances. And today, having that conversation with me and trying to help us make sense of how to manage our finances and love at the same time is Vumile Msweli. She is the CEO of HESED Consulting. Good evening and good to have you.
Good evening from a sweltering Johannesburg.
Ugh. See, it rained here and it rained cat and dog. So, if you say swirling, well, who am I to say no? So yes, you can as well be a part of Business Hub this evening. Share your thoughts on with me on WhatsApp on 009 4440 981. You've got questions, you've got contributions. Please feel free to come through and let's get into it proper. All right, but to let's even set the tone going forward. Okay. I really want to know with regards love and finances, how should an individual and loved ones currently handle financial decisions in a relationship? Who
That's
should
a
be making
good
those
one.
decisions? Yeah.
I'm of the opinion that, financial decisions in relationships really need to be handled through open communication, right? We
Okay.
need to be able to discuss major financial choices together. And this is looking at them from a short term perspective as well as a long term perspective. There was an
Mm,
interesting survey done, right, with financial literacy initiative in Nigeria, and 65% of couples
mm-hmm.
actually believe that open communication about finances is important for a successful relationship.
True.
And I know archaically some of us will say, oh, I don't have to worry about that. Let my husband manage these things, which is
You know.
great.
Mm,
But God forbid he leaves sooner than you expect. Then you actually have no idea as to what do your assets look like. What do they
mm-hmm.
look like in the country? Who owns the property? What
Mm,
do they look like outside of the country? How many bank accounts are they? Are there any insurance policies? How much
yeah.
debt owed? So you're comfortable thinking, no, we own this home, not realizing he may have mortgaged the home in order to raise capital for a business venture he was doing overseas.
Mm,
All these things are critical. I've seen too many women and sometimes men being,
okay.
in the grieving process, not realizing that it's not their
In
loved one
depth.
that's going to mourn, but also the state of their finances.
Oh my word, that's really worrying. But it's I don't want to say it's a Nigerian thing, but I would actually say it's an African thing to just shove it to the man and say, "Oh, it's the man, he's the head of the house. He gets to handle all that while I'm just, you know what, just deal with what I actually have to deal with. This is just housekeeping or managing my own finances and I shouldn't even be bothered." But how can she start to change that as a woman
So I think one
actually?
of the important things to do is actually have sit down family annual meetings where we sit down and we plan what
Really?
our financial. Mm-hmm. I do this
Huh.
in
Huh.
our home, where we
Okay.
plan what are the goals for the family for the next year. What
Okay.
are the things that are critical imperatives? Okay, we've got to worry about school fees. We've got to be
Mm.
cognizant of potentially having to replace cars. This is the maintenance the home requires. Where
Okay.
are we with? How are these things going to get financed? What are the goals financially for the business? All
Okay.
of these things that we need to be speaking on an annual basis. Then on a quarterly basis, to then
Mhm.
say, where are we? Oh, this quarter, so and so, Susie or Kemi is starting swimming. So that means you've
Mm.
got to shift now and know that that's an extra expense that's coming into
Extra
the house.
expense. True.
So we need to know all of this. Rent is due in the third quarter. What's the plan for that? Have we saved adequately? We
Okay.
need to have those conversations. And I
Mm.
think often Africans, what we tend to do is if we don't talk about it, it won't happen. And that's simply not how life works.
Indeed, that's not how life works. If you don't have conversations about it, it will just do a one-up on you when you least expect. And talking about doing a one-up, right? How exactly do you incorporate loved ones into your long-term financial goals? Seeing that some people will say, if I let this person in on what I'm having or what I do, it will make them lazy. Also, how can it even be achieved? I know that I, I'm trying to remember who now. It's a sports guy who says he's not leaving anything for his kids. He worked for it. He they don't own anything. He will only just give them the necessary basics that they need to start off their life, and that's about it. But all the money he's made is for him.
So it's an interesting philosophy, right? So
Indeed.
I've got a mixed view. So in looking at, I think there's several aspects when we talk about loved ones. There's our spouse, our significant other, where I
Okay.
think for them it's important that we are open and honest because in essence we're a unit and we're a team. And if one
Mm,
falls down, we need to be able to lift each other up. Because
true.
life happens. People get retrenched. People lose jobs. Things happen,
Mm,
so we need to be aware of where we are. Then
okay.
looking from a legacy perspective when it comes to our children.
Hmm.
I love it when I think it was Pastor TDJ who said it's not what you leave them, but it's what you leave in them. That's important.
Okay.
And for me, if I look at my family,
Hmm.
we've never been raised to expect any inheritance. Yes,
Okay.
it's financial.
Mm,
Well, when my grandfather passed away, everything got left to my grandmother. His children didn't see anything. His grandchildren didn't see anything. Everything got
okay.
left. So we've never expected, we never
Okay.
anticipated, oh, the wealth will come to us automatically. That's not how it works. So
Okay.
everyone has a mentality of I must build. And this is, I think, is a very important characteristic because what
Mm,
we find, specifically in Africa, is wealth gets lost in the third generation.
true.
The grandfather makes the money, leaves money for some children, my children, who then see me working hard and creating the money.
Hmm.
Then by my grandchildren come, they're starting to assume that actually we're
There's
financially
money.
wealthy, everything's fine. By the
Mm,
time they come, there's nothing left. So I think we need a combination of both. I think
okay.
it's important, imperative that we build generational wealth, but
Mm,
also build generational wealth psychology. That the people we're raising are
okay.
aware as to what it takes to create wealth in their own capacity in order to contribute to the generational legacy wealth building capacity. And that for me is exposing our children. How do we expose them to how wealth is created? And the principles of wealth creation, not
Mm,
just what we love to do in Africa is say, oh no, I'm a lawyer, you two will take over the law firm.
indeed.
But what happens if you raise an accountant? Can
So
you
how?
teach the skill set of building a practice to your child who's an accountant so we can then say in 10 years' time,
Mm,
in the family we've got a law practice as well as an accounting practice.
mm. I like that because if I had actually followed through in my father's stead, I probably would have been managing his firm, his law firm, but I chose not to go in that line. But hey, that's another conversation entirely. But when it comes to loved ones and making things happen, you need to talk about gener by the third generation, everything's gone. They've, as they
Yeah.
say, chopped all the monies. How then do you manage conflicts when it comes to monies with your loved ones?
Oh, it's they say the number one reason for marriages ending is often divorce. Divorce
Financial.
happening with
Okay.
finances. So disagreements related to money happen
Mm,
most in relationships when we don't know how to compromise, when we don't know how to understand each other's perspectives, and most
okay.
importantly, when we also don't understand what is our psychology around money. The saver always marries the spender, and we get very frustrated.
Ooh, okey doke. Hmm. Okay. So I'm hoping that Msile will get back to me. I don't know why the network, but hopefully that comes back through. Let me see if I can get her back on. Okay, doke. Welcome back.
Oh, apologies. I don't know what happened there. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
Awesome. So I think we need to make sure that we understand each other's money perspectives and money philosophies.
Okay.
So that's saying, how do you like to spend your money? So someone might say, no, I don't want to save. I want to buy a pair of shoes every time I get a bonus. Well, the other person is like, no, that's you can't eat the seeds. That's going to go towards our children. So I think being very open and honest about what our expectations are around money, as well as really unpacking what our psychology is around money. And then most importantly, how did you view your parents and how they engaged with money?
I'm coming to what you said earlier about the spender marrying the saver. How often does this happen? Because, say, for instance, I'm trying to settle down with someone and I'm the one who saves and spends at the same time, but he doesn't even have an idea about any of that. How do we now balance it out? You're muted.
I think there becomes a case of us being being very clear and learning from each other. So what I like to encourage people to do is have couple goals. Not looking at other couples and wishing, oh, why aren't we those? But what are our goals as a couple?
Okay.
Right? So we are working towards this particular goal.
Okay.
Buying our first house, buying our first investment property, which means you don't get to spend, and I don't just save in perpetuity. At some point, we meet in the middle, but those have to be aligned to our values. And I think that for me becomes imperative for us to say, what do we value as a couple?
Okay. I like that. It's setting those goals and making sure that you're able to meet them. Don't forget that you can as well be a part of Business Hub this evening. You have thoughts you want to share as well when it comes to navigating love and finances. Please come through, share your questions if you have any, because hey, you see, when it comes to loved ones, some of us are a bit, you know, we're a bit scared of having those conversations where we think that if we do have those conversations, it just make the relationship crash or it will bring issues. So I'm liking where that's going to. However, there's more to actually have a conversation about. And you know what? It is always important, like Mumsile has said, to have a conversation. Do not run away from it. The more you run away from it, it's a waiting in front for you. It will definitely come and bite you where you do not expect. So I think that's the one I have actually gotten a hang of or I've gotten into, and I will incorporate going forward. Communication, because hey, those communications can be hard. But yes, we'll take this quick breather. And then when we come back, we'll definitely be talking more about how we get to balance things out even as an individual before we even go into the relationship and so much more. So don't go nowhere. Stay tuned to Smooth 98.1. Just a quick break. And we'll come back.
No worries. I'm going to carry on driving. Otherwise, I'm going to be late.
Okay, please go ahead.
Can you see it's like...
If at some point you need to turn off the video, it'll be fine. So that I don't get to, you know, distract you so much.
Okay, at least you can hear me.
Yes, loud and clear. That
But
would
I just want to...
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect.
No.
No, South Africa, you don't want to park on the side of the road too long. Just now they jack your car.
Oh my days. That isn't something you hear on a regular, but okay.
No, we like, carjacking is hectic here.
Ooh, no, that's scary. No, that's scary. Okay. I will bear that in mind when next I come.
You won't be driving when you come, will you?
Well, that's true, actually. I won't be driving when I come. Oh my day.
When are you coming to SA?
It'll probably be towards the middle of the year. I haven't set it up yet, but mid of the year, definitely.
Oh, okay, because I'm hosting the Africa Career Summit on the 29th of June.
Oh, okay. We'll see how things will pan out. But let's go back into the conversation and hey, see where we go from there. All right, 32 minutes gone past 5. And yes, it's to tune in to Business Hub on Smooth 98.1. And always a fun time having conversations where you have to talk about money and managing your finances, because that's what we're doing today on Business Hub. We are trying to navigate love and finances. And doing that with me is Vumile Msweli. She is the CEO of HESED Consulting. And we've actually touched on certain things, but I actually want us to come back to individuals. I'm talking about you as a person. Um, in what way can a loved one support someone or support each other during financial challenges? Maybe at that point in time, you've just lost your job or you're in between jobs. How do you help that individual?
I think during financially challenging times, couples definitely need to support each other emotionally and financially. You know, we brainstorm solutions together, prioritize expenses, and really explore, for options to say, how do we get additional income in? And if need be, what's very, very important is that in life, there are going to be unexpected financial challenges. 48% of couples will face financial challenges. So I think it's important for us to think as a team to say, okay, so we find ourselves here, you've got this revenue coming in. How can we decrease our expenses? How can we increase our revenue to tide us over as we go in? And I think it also becomes very important to be careful about how we speak about each other and to each other during financial times. Don't let it separate us, but let's rather face the challenge that is outside as a unit as opposed to tearing each other apart eternally.
Well, that usually is the horrible thing that some people get into, bring down their partners when things aren't working out the way they expected. But how then do you now balance individual finances? Say you're with an independent person, on then you're trying to share those financial responsibilities in a relationship. So this is you before being an individual, you just started off a relationship. How do you now balance things, seeing that you still want to maintain some part of you and still be able to share with your partner?
I think it's important that you're able to give yourself the independence, right? Being financially independent is imperative, but also coming together and saying, what are the responsibilities we have that are shared that we need to collaborate and come together? So here's a good example. We are now a couple. There is no point in us having separate homes, right? It's more cost effective for us to live together, right? Which means our expenses are reduced from a rental perspective point of view. Potentially even our grocery bill could be reduced as opposed to now having to buy for each home separately, which is great. Those shared responsibilities reduce our costs as a unit. But also being able to say, should something happen to either one of us, I, as an individual, can still be able to effectively contribute to the whole. And I know often when I say this, people say, are you saying that I must stop being a housewife? And that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying make sure that even if you are a housewife, you keep up to par with your continued professional development. Because God forbid something happen and you need to go back to the workforce. It can't be a case of, I'm sorry, I graduated, 20 odd years ago. I haven't done anything in the field since, not even from a voluntary perspective. So I actually cannot add value because all the information I have is outdated. But if you're saying, oh, no, I have, volunteered some of my time. I've done this particular course that kept me up to date. I am ready to go to the workforce if need be. That for me is someone who can be financial independence while still sharing responsibilities with their partner.
I like that. So don't just sit back and say, oh, okay, I don't know anything about this. So make yourself useful, gain some skills, learn something every day. And I think that's important to actually learn a skill every day. But how does one approach the discussion on perspective or respective attitudes towards saving and spending money with a loved one? I know this comes back to the saver and the spender. How then do you actually broach it, saying that, hey, I like to keep a certain amount. This has been my my way of living, and now I'm joining you, and I'm not thinking, do I have to change my habits?
I think here it becomes imperative that we are brutally honest. And the brutal honesty isn't just surface in that it's speaking about the behavior, but we
Okay.
go into the psychology of it. So
Mhm.
let's say you are an entrepreneur, you've built a business, you've launched businesses, and you know that you need, I'm comfortable having at least #1,000,000 in my account.
Mhm.
You're then saying to your significant other, listen, we need to keep #1,000,000. And the person's like, that's ridiculous. You know how many shoes I
Mhm.
could get? But then saying,
Okay.
my history is I've lost money before. And in losing
Mm.
money, I found that if I've got #1,000,000, that's almost always enough to help me bootstrap and build once again. Now
Mm.
that conversation is something different because you're understanding the psychology of what your partner is saying as opposed to just don't spend the money. Then also, if you're a spender, why are you a spender? Often we come from homes where maybe there wasn't always enough. There was a bit of lack. So when we had to enjoy it because
Yeah.
who knows what again happened.
Ugh. I
So
didn't
then
have it
saying,
growing up, so I
I
want to
like being able to
make
budget.
most of it.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. So actually, I want to spend a little bit more because I don't know when it's coming again. Then you can understand when your partner gets excited on a sale and splurges a little bit more than they should. So I think
okay.
it's important to unpack those conversations from a psychology perspective and not just to stop spending or just start saving.
So it's a gradual process. You have this conversation, and as time goes, you see how to, put a benchmark on certain things, or say, oh, okay, so you've done this for this month. How about thinking about increasing certain things or increasing your saving spending or your savings for next month. I think that would actually work.
It definitely does. And if you agree with a minimum each, to say, I need you to spend 1,000 less and I'll save 1,000 more,
Mhm.
we are slowly starting to adopt each other's habits, which I think for me is the true compromise.
Okay, but okay, here's a question I would really love to have an answer to. So, you know how it is when we're just starting off with relationships. It's all beautiful. He's spending, you're enjoying the moment. But once you now start to become a couple, you now see certain individuals, it could be the man at this point, it could equal be the female. You see them hoarding things because they're like, oh, we've gotten so used to each other. I don't think I should go out. Say maybe it's having dinner dates or even just going on movie dates. Anything. They'll be like, oh, it's you. I shouldn't I shouldn't even be spending so much on you, and you should understand. How then do you broach that conversation?
I think longevity should not equate to a lot of romance. I
Okay.
don't think that. But I do think that there are strategic ways in which we can still indulge and engage each other that
Okay.
don't have to cost a fortune. So we might not necessarily be going now to a 5 Michelin star restaurant for dinner, but
Mm-hmm.
it would be nice to have to do a picnic in the backyard. It would be
Mm-hmm.
nice to say, oh, actually, let's go to the movies next week. So I
Mm.
think it's important for us as a couple to still invest in
Okay.
engaging each other. And I think it's also important. What does being a couple mean? Because we also have to be
Mm.
cognizant of our partner's love language. So
Okay.
I'm the kind of person who, words of affirmation are very important to me. So a
Okay.
beautifully written card will mean more to me
Mm.
than you spending on a gift, for example. But there are other
Okay.
people where gifts are their love language. So starving them of those roses and those things actually
Yeah.
makes them feel less loved. So I think
Mm.
it's important for you to understand what is my partner's love language. How can
Mm-hmm.
I still meet their romantic and emotional needs on a budget? So
Okay.
if your person likes movies, maybe do a Netflix and chill session at home, and then next month go out to a movie.
God.
If it's
Mm.
about it's not about the money per se, but when you spend quality time when you go to the restaurant, maybe
Yeah.
then do that quality time at home or taking a nice stroll along the
Okay.
bridge.
I like that. Be wise with how you just know who your partner is, and you'll be able to spend wisely. And make the
Definitely.
budgets work for you. But how
And
is it?
personally, I think the most romantic thing in the world is building generational wealth. I don't want to be broke together
I
forever. I want to enjoy wealth together as well.
I agree with you on that. I don't want a situation where it just stops at me and you. I want to see it go to the next 10 generations if possible. But yeah, that's an important thing to also take note of. But yes, when we're talking about generations and that, how important is it to have a joint budget for a couple who is planning to settle down, and how should it be managed separately or together?
That's a great question. So I think it does depend on the financial responsibility and also what your financial background look like. I think joint in
Okay.
a perspective that you sit down and you share each other's budgets. To say,
Okay.
okay, so I come from a family that perhaps isn't as affluent as yours, and I've got
Mm,
to pay for my siblings' school fees, for example, in the UK.
yeah.
Well, in your world, you might come from wealth, and your biggest issue you've got to worry about is fuel for your vehicle. So so
Yes.
we then need to sit down. So when I'm saying, I'm sorry, the pound naira rate is insane at the moment. I can't afford for that dinner
Okay.
next week. You don't get
Mm,
upset because you're aware of the financial responsibility. So for me,
mm,
I think playing open cards is important, but also not punishing each other. Say, well, you've got more financial responsibility. We must all
okay.
meet each other at the same level. I think
Mm,
being honest and saying this I can do, but my need is for you to meet me here, and the other
okay.
person also being honest and saying these are my responsibilities. So keeping independent budgets definitely,
Hmm.
sharing those independent budgets, and then having a budget for us as a unit where our shared responsibilities do lie.
Mm, I like that. Mm. It still all boils down to having that important conversation. If you're not having an open communication when it comes to your relationships, then I think you have a lot going on and you need to sort that out. But hey, talking about that, are there milestones we want to be setting up as an individual or even as a couple? Are there
Oh,
milestones when it comes to finances?
so in looking at the milestones when it comes to our finances, I think it is imperative that when we do our short term, our medium term, and our long term budgets, we
Okay.
know what that success looks like.
Mm.
Yay, we've paid off the house. Oh, wonderful. We've bought the apartment in the UK. Oh,
Hmm.
yay, we paid your master's degree. We must celebrate those because it
Okay.
means we are growing. And for me, those milestones need to come from an asset perspective, asset
Okay.
acquired. They need to
Hmm.
come from a personal development investment, which means you're growing the asset that is yourself and potentially your capacity to generate even more wealth. And I think it also has to come from a cash flow perspective. Oh, I used to owe this person this particular debt. I've paid it off. That means cash flow has increased by X amount every single month. So I think it's
Mm.
important that we celebrate those milestones. And that for me is when, it doesn't hurt. It might warrant a little bit of spending to celebrate.
Mm. But it is important to just do those things. Okay, so there's an elephant in the room, and this has to do with addressing financial infidelity in a relationship. You see what I did there? So you've been sneaking it out and doing certain things that your partner doesn't know, but all of a sudden catches up with. How did you address that?
To those people, I'm not judging anyone where you go shopping and you have to quickly hide the clothes. This dress, what do you mean? I bought it years ago. Meanwhile, you bought it yesterday.
Indeed.
So,
So what do we do?
my, so the moment you are conducting financial infidelity, you
Mm,
are in breach of fidelity.
okay.
Meaning, there is a space in your relationship where there's a lack of either being faithful and honest, and you know
Okay.
why that occurs. It's either you have actually had a conversation about it, and
Mm,
you've decided you're going to behave differently, yet you continue to put yourself and your needs and your desires above the word that you have committed.
mhm. Okay.
So for me, it's important then to say, as opposed to sneaking around, let's relook at it. Maybe you said
Mhm.
no more spending till Christmas time. That is insane. I am going to spend. There's some Easter sales going on. I will
Mhm.
spend now in April, right?
Okay.
So rather be honest. Because for me, I find the
Yeah.
moment you start having to sneak and lie, the lies catch up with you and you're going to forget what you said last time. Then it actually breaks trust and things that actually are critical. So rather be
Yeah.
safe, sorry, and just say, let us relook at why these rules are in place because I'm having to sneak around because they're actually not aligned with my values.
Okay. And that whole sneaking around, no, no. It's a no for me. But yes, it's always a fun time having conversations with you. I don't want to let you go. kind of have to because we'll run out of time. But I want to know, should couples be seeking professional help when it comes to their budgeting or finances? Why?
Definitely.
And if not, why not?
Definitely. If you don't have someone whose expertise is finances in the relationship,
Yeah.
I think definitely do not hesitate to reach out to a money coach, a financial advisor, or financial planner. And for
Okay.
me, it's not just about budgeting, it's about how you go about actually creating generational wealth. Having those conversations as a couple helps us set what our long-term goals are, our medium-term goals, and it helps us know what we could be doing differently. Financial instruments are constantly changing. And if you're not in the industry, you won't know what those trends are. So reaching out to a professional is imperative to help you as an individual, but also you as a couple.
Okay. Great stuff. Well, that's where we'll have to draw a curtain today on Business Hub. Thank you so much for shedding more light when it comes to finances and love and helping us make the best sense of it. And like I said, the one thing I've taken out today is constant communication, keep it open, and that way you won't be breaking the trust of your partner.
Definitely. So, of course, if you want to continue the conversation, you can reach out to me on social media. My handle is Vumile Msweli, spelled V for victory, U, M for mother, I for India, M for mother, S for sugar, WELI. You'll find me on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, as well as X.
Oh, awesome. So yes, now you know where to reach out to Vumi on and how to ask her personal questions if you, well, maybe you're feeling shy about asking those questions on air. But that's what we're trying to cut in today on Business Hub. Thank you so much for being a part of it. And yes, Fumi, thank you so much for, helping me out. I mentioned earlier about the the individual who said he was not going to be leaving money to his kids. Yeah, it was Shaq O'Neal. Shaquille O'Neal. He made mention of that. So thank you for me for reminding me about that. And that's what we're cutting today on Business Hub. So much more in store for you to